Hi, we're going to do Yecheskel, Perek of Zion. This year will be given in memory of Rachaleah Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Should be a source of aliyah for her neshama. Last week we spoke about the fate of Tzur, the great commercial city with no heart, no soul, the city that was compared to a fishnet that grabbed up everyone small, everyone helpless, for their own good, for their own benefit. Today, the same theme is going to be what we talk about. There's an entire additional perek that talks about the fall of Tzur. And Yecheskel in this perek, interestingly, mourns the loss of the beauty and potentials of Tzur. So what that tells us is that there's nothing to rejoice about, per se. It's a tragedy that this is what happened. Now, in order for you to understand this perek, and to understand what's being mourned and why, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before in these classes. I'm going to take you to a whole other text, away from Yecheskel. So what we're going to be doing is looking at two different ideas that are presented in Michtav Me'Eliyahu. Okay, one is, you'll find this in the third volume, if I'm not mistaken, on page 182. It's talking about free choice. ועתה נפנה אל השאלה שעמדנו בראש דברינו ונוכיח שההנחה אשר עליה היא בנויה מטעית לגמרי. So he begins by telling us that the question that people sometimes ask and that he's addressing is completely wrong. Soon he's going to tell us the question. המגמה הישרה בחירה אינה הנאה. What makes a person make choices is not pleasure. People will think that a person makes a choice and they have really no free capacity. I mean, everyone wants pleasure more than they want pain, so they'll make this choice rather than that choice because their life circumstances make them equate certain things with pleasure and other things with pain. And therefore, nothing is ever anybody's fault, which I'm sure we've heard before. So he says human choice is much deeper than that. He says what makes a person choose one thing over another is his awareness of something empty that he wants to fill. And what empty space he wants to fill, that depends on who he is as a person. So some people are through their own inner choice, the only lack that they could ever really feel strongly about is material lack. Okay, so to them that's the only lack that's real. And because of this, they're going to not be aware of spiritual lack or emotional lack. So why? Because since they perceive that what they're lacking is material pleasure, that's where they're going to put all of their emotions and all of their energy in its pursuit. So they have to silence the emotional emptiness and the spiritual emptiness. Okay, or you have a person whose choice is to fill what's lacking in their soul. So picture somebody who's, I'll share with you, I may have spoken to you about this a couple of weeks ago because I was so moved by it. They have something in Yerushalayim called a Sivuv Sha'arim, where people get together at 7 o'clock every Erev Rosh Chodesh at the Kotel. I had never been there before. And they're taken on a guided tour of the gates. Now the way it goes is that the men are in front and the women in back. There are these young girls who carry this very large mechitza separating them, so it's very, very appropriately done. And there's sound equipment. So when the men get to one of the gates, somebody recites Tehillim, both the men and the women. Then the men go forward and they sing. And the women, who are completely concealed from the men by this mechitza, dance, sing, they give out tambourines. It's unbelievable. Now that moment of joy, what's the joy there? The joy is, at least to that moment, we could picture that the partial return that Hashem has granted us in our time will lead to a real return. So when you're singing and the gates will open, Pitchi Le'Sha'arei Tzedek, you could believe they're going to open one day and we'll all be there. And what makes it particularly moving, at least to me, is that the people on the tour don't know each other. So it's not camaraderie that comes from acquaintanceship. It's camaraderie that's developed through true shared spiritual joy. Now in those moments you're there with complete strangers dancing with this a tambourine in your hand, you don't think, I think a tuna sandwich is a lot better if there's like a leaf of lettuce underneath the tuna, and then you put the tuna, and then, okay, that's not what you're thinking. Why? Because you're filling your soul, so your body's needs has been put to the side. So a person's choice is really where they're going to focus.